Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another day of Mom's Movement and Mindset, how to break through resistance and transform your body and mind. I'm your host, Don Fisher. Excited to be back with you. Today, I have an exciting and an interesting talk, somebody who I've never had the opportunity to work with, so it'll be my first time working with her. And of course, I'm speaking about Rochelle Rice. She's a nationally recognized speaker, educator, and author. A former professional jazz dancer with 30 plus years in the fitness industry. She blends her anatomical approach with somatic experience training to help working women of every size and shape to feel better and do more to move through resistance. That was a mouthful. So anyway, welcome, Rochelle. How are you?
I'm great, Don. Thank you so much for having me today.
No, of course, I'm grateful that you're here taking time out of your day. So we'll just jump right in. So the title of our talk today, and I am curious to learn a little bit more about this, is regulating your central nervous system to move through resistance. So I am already in the dark, so I want to find out more about this here. So let's start off first with your anatomical approach to resistance. Why don't you just tell us a little bit more about what that approach is?
Perfect. Thank you again, Dawn. What's exciting to me about when with the topic of moving through resistance is a lot of times we're trying to really muscle it through our heads, and we forget that the body needs to be exquisitely engaged. What I mean by that is we cannot control all the crazy that's going on around us, but we can control our response to the crazy and therefore help us to move with or through resistance. The anatomical approach that I love to talk about is the fact that we, these beautiful human beings, bodies that we have over 90,000 miles of sensations. So if your body is struggling with resistance and moving through or with something, it could be because your central nervous system, those 90,000 miles of sensations, are either in a fight, flight, or freeze mode. And as much as you may want to muscle from your head to move through the resistance, what the body is saying needs to be recognized and honored.
Wow. Okay, so let's just touch on then the I guess those three phases that you just brought up, the fight, flight, or freeze. Mm-hmm. How would somebody go about knowing like which phase they're in?
Where they are. Yeah, well, let's first discuss what's happened in the animal kingdom. What's most exciting to me is if we watch a possum, the actual possum, when there is danger, the possum will curl into a ball, just really hug on in and slow down the breathing, slow down its entire system so that the danger that comes upon it thinks that the possum is actually deceased, is dead. And the danger moves on, the danger being some other animal that may want to attack it. It moves on. The possum is able to shake off, right? To able to regulate a system by shaking off and get going in life again. What happens to us as human beings is that system gets interrupted, right? We may be in a stress state and we don't get the opportunity to move through it, or we hold so tight we don't move through it. We have the fight, which means that if you're showing signs in your life, in your day-to-day, where you're actually fighting with people in that combative spirit, spirit is maybe not quite the right word, but in that combative mode, that is to say to you that your body almost has this like kind of feeling to it where you are ready. It's almost like you've got the armor on and you are ready to fight. There's a high level of cortisol levels even coming up through that. The flight is if it shows up in your world as if I just can't look at this. No, I can't look at this. I can't look at this. Not yet. No. And you keep turning from it. You'll know there's the flight, and flight can also show up with challenges in the digestive system as well. The freeze is when you are just stuck. You aren't moving at all. You can't make a decision. You can't figure out what to eat. Things are just, you sleep all the time. Just things are just stuck. So looking at these three, fight, flight, or freeze, it helps you to understand which one you may be in to regulate your central nervous system.
Quite literally, I guess at times, right? Like paralyzing, it seems like somebody, right? It keep them from moving at all.
That's exactly right, Don. Paralyzing is that freeze, right? When you almost shut down the whole system, like the possum, right? We shut down our systems and we just don't move, nothing happens. And we continue to fight with ourselves like, oh, I'm paralyzed, which does nothing but paralyze us further. So.
For sure. So, I mean, I guess that leads right into our next question. If somebody, Now, whatever facet of life it may be, I guess, right? Whether it's
Yes.
finances, spirituality,
Yes.
their health and fitness.
Right.
If they want like nothing more, right? It's getting to a point where they look in the mirror and they're so frustrated because they want to change. When they get to that point of like wanting to change that bad, I guess maybe touch on a little bit about how these can have the effect on them not being able to move forward. Because it just seems to me that like if you want to change that bad, you'll change. And
Right.
people, I feel like sometimes even if you hook somebody up to like a lie detector test, they might very well pass saying, I do want to change, yet they don't. So
Correct. Yeah.
why is that the case, would you say?
Again, let's go. The head is always saying, I want to change, I want to change, I want to change, right? And the body is saying, not quite, not really ready. You don't have quite the steps in place for us to make this shift. Let's go back for a moment and talk about that range of resilience, right? If we imagine our central nervous system between these two lines, if you have a system that is having a challenge, meaning you get angry a lot, you cry a lot, I think that there's not a lot of room for the range of resilience, right? So in order to expand, it would look like this, our range of resilience, which means the central nervous system has a reaction and then it's able to regulate itself. And there's another reaction and it's able to regulate ourselves. Those who have a reaction and stay at that heightened sense continue to feel that up, 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 and not able to let that release back again, or those who crash and aren't able to bring themselves back up. So the goal is to get into this regulated central nervous system. Now, when we talk a little bit about how the change, right? It's really, for me, especially in this work we've been doing over this past year with the COVID, it's really helping people to listen to the wisdom of their body. What is their body saying? The head's trying to say one thing, but the body has got to be listened to. Maybe it's stuck somewhere. I say the issues are in the tissues, right? Maybe it's stuck somewhere. For a lot of people, it's stuck in the whole digestive system, right? If it shows up as either constipation or diarrhea, it can go in either direction. So listening to the body and letting that voice get stronger than the mind is where then perhaps things will begin to sync up a little bit better, and the fighting between the two will stop, and a more regulated system will start to emerge with a little more resilience.
Perfect, perfect. So I guess aside, like when you kind of get to that point where like you're starting to listen at least, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it seems to me maybe that would be like step one, right? You got to be aware of what you're, I guess, experiencing before you can then make some sort of a change. Once you've
Correct.
like listened and you have a sense of maybe what's going on, what are, I guess, maybe like 3 tips you would give to help somebody move out of that and regulate their central nervous system?
Terrific thing. So yes, you're absolutely right. The first step is to listen. And most people I have found in my work will push against what they're hearing. And here's what I mean. If I ask people, where do you feel the stress in the body, right? They're able to say, so Dawn, when you are stressed, where do you feel stress in your body?
Probably my traps, like my shoulders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. So mine shows up at the base of my neck, a little bit more in the levator scapula, where it just goes right up the base of my neck. So my head is just gripped right on. I sometimes, don't tell anybody, continue to move through this without even listening to what this is saying to me. So the first thing in listening is to not only to listen, but to acknowledge and take care, right? To take care. When the stress is showing up in the body, especially like I said, at the base of my skull, it can literally knock me down for a day or two if I don't do something about it. So you can treat it, right? For me, it's heat. What do you do when your traps are stressed, Dawn? What do you end up doing?
If I'm in the gym, I'll get like a lacrosse ball and
Yeah.
like kind of wedge it up against the wall, a little soft tissue work.
Right.
Of course, that's not like a be all end all, but it helps a little bit, you know.
Absolutely. So you want to take care of it. So for me, it's a little tiger balm, a little bit of rest on that neck, a little bit more heat and whenever I can. But then the next piece is to address, where is this coming from? Why is this showing up? Why am I stressed? Usually for me, it has to do with scheduling. I've put too much in the day and I haven't made any space in my day. So the first and foremost thing is, yes, indeed, to listen, but then to address the issue as well, not just ignore it and keep plowing forward. Would you agree?
Yeah, spot on for sure.
as the second step is to really listen to the breathing. Now, I know everybody these days talking about breathing and meditation, et cetera, but I'm sure you've seen this as well. people need to understand diaphragmatic breathing from an anatomical perspective, what's happening. So I'll have people place their hand on their heart and the hand on the abdomen below the navel. And then as they inhale, to be sure that the hand on the abdomen is rising first. As especially to me as women, we learn this whole feeling of suck it in, right? As opposed to allowing the breath to, as you inhale, fill the abdomen first, exhale, draw the navel to the spine. Understanding that the diaphragm has to come out of spasm to work for you so that the breathing comes back on track. Okay, so we're listening, we've got the breath. And then the third thing is to look. So it's listen, breathe, and look. When things are so crazy and our system is so dysregulated or dysregulated, if you take a moment, one of the key things I like to say to people is look at, can you see 3 blue things in the room? So the minute the person starts to look around for 3 blue things, right? It starts to focus the system and bring things a little bit more inward, because the spinning and the crazy can get us so whipped up. So just listening first to your body and addressing it, breathing, and then looking. And that look is just to find maybe 3 blue things in the room to help bring it down.
Awesome. Yeah, I know, like, I guess something I could relate to from my own experience, like working with clients, like for the step 1 of that, like addressing the issue. That's how you phrased it, right? Addressing the
Address
issue.
the issue, yep.
So I refer to it sometimes as like removing the negative. So if a client like carries a briefcase like in the same arm every day, something as simple as just like, hey, get a backpack, or just be mindful of that and like switch hands. And then the breathing there, like I love that, like the crocodile breathing. It's so, I mean, if we get like stressed out and our heart rate's elevated, crocodile breathing is just such a great way, you know, the belly breathing, diaphragmatic breathing. It's so awesome to bring everything down. Okay, cool. So with that now, right, where they're identifying what's going on, or like they're bringing awareness to it, and a little bit more mindfulness.
Right.
Then they have these three tips here to start moving through it.
Right.
How does resilience actually come into play now? Like another word, maybe endurance, where someone is able to push through something maybe that was super scary or uncomfortable.
Right.
Because sometimes we don't. I guess what I'm trying to get at is we don't want to move when we're afraid. But the positive is if we're able to move through the things we are afraid of or unsure of, it builds resilience and endurance. So that way, when we're faced with that again, you know, so I guess maybe you could touch on a little bit about that, like how that helps.
Absolutely. So if we go to the part about listen, right? If we do the listen, if the resistance, let's just say I'm trying to exercise more, but the resistance is showing up in my body. Again, let's just say for me, it's at the base of the skull. We'll use that one as just, okay. When it's showing up and keeps showing up, that means we're fighting with it. So listening to that and just having the conversation, what do I need? How do I move through with this? The breathing, again, when it comes to the resistance, is usually also that we don't understand from an anatomical perspective. So what I like to do is actually show people, here's the diaphragm, here's how this works. The reason is, what I find is the more people come into their bodies, right, the more it neutralizes the emotion, right? Because they're like, oh, I got to breathe. Oh, I got to breathe. It's like, no, this is how it works. This is a system. And I try to connect it to other systems that might be going on in their life. When they drop into that, right, it neutralizes the emotion so that they can move either with it or through the resistance. And the last part about looking, the reason I talk about that a lot is that people can also visualize what is it that they want. And that visualization is like, again, the brain is just saying, it's almost as if the brain knows we have this already. Right. So when I'm spotting a few things in the room to try to calm my whole system down, the same can hold true for visualizing what it is. So, okay, I want to exercise more. So I start to see myself moving through space more. Maybe it's very simple. Maybe it's doing 5 New York City blocks to start, or 2 New York City blocks, or down the stairs and back up again, keeping it super simple, visualizing that, again, bringing your whole body on track to increase your resilience and be able to build on that in order to continue. I like to say, Dawn, I like to say move with and through resistance, because people need to understand that you can move with it to begin and then move through. That's my personal take on it.
I like that, because resistance, you know, just other like entrepreneurs, people that I've followed, Fear is another word. Sometimes it's used for resistance, but one way that I had never kind of heard it put out before was that fear sometimes can usually be an indicator of like what we need to do. So, it could be that resistance, right? That could be guiding us where we should be going. But obviously there's going to be some discomfort because maybe it's new, but like you're saying, it's like, instead of trying to, I don't want to do that, like put up the roadblocks, move with it, and then
Exactly.
ultimately get through it. So I love that. I love that explanation.
Actually, that is really cool because I'll tell you what happened. This past birthday in January, here we are still in lockdown COVID, and my nephews who are young offer, "Hey, Aunt Rochelle, why don't we go snowboarding?" I've never snowboarded, and it's probably been 20 years since I've been on skis. And the fear crept in. I was like, "Holy smokes!" But what happened was, that fear had the excitement behind it too. So I was able to kind of move with it and see it to, I'm going to say, move with and through the resistance to actually have a beautiful day. Now, I spent most of the time on my gluteus maximus coming down the slopes, but I had such a thrilling time. I'll probably never do it again, but it was fantastic. And it was one where I had to recognize the fear, right? Recognize the resistance, move with and through it by taking those steps, right? To listening to where it's showing up in my body, to going with the breath, especially on the slope, to be with my breathing, and then to be able to look around and say, what are the things here? Well, there's my nephew. Okay, great. There's a beautiful sky, and there's the gorgeous outdoors here that we're looking at. So I loved moving through it, even though I had a lot of resistance and fear around it.
Yeah, a buddy of mine, he actually invited me snowboarding once as well, and it was the same thing. I was falling down a lot, but the thing I love is like you brought some like practical application to everything that we've talked up to this point.
Exactly.
Because a lot of times, if we feel this resistance and we don't move with and through, we could wind up depriving ourselves a lot, like of a lot of life experiences that most likely, if we did it, like we'd probably enjoy it. Whether it's maybe taking a new job or going snowboarding, even though you're falling on your butt all day, it's like, at least you did it, now you know.
Yes, yes. Let me give a little PS on that though, because I do believe there is a time when we feel the fear and the resistance, and it should also be looked at as something that maybe is not the right decision for you in that moment for whatever it is. Now, let's just say it's a new job and something's just kind of tugging at you, right? And you think, oh, am I afraid? Am I resistant? Listen very carefully. I think the more advanced we become in listening and understanding our own bodies, our own systems, the more skilled we become, the more precise our decision making gets. And that's what excites the heck out of me. You want to become a master of you. Understand you, your body, your physical body, the sensations that come through you. Because sometimes the sensation can go so fast you don't even see it and feel it. You kind of go, oh, what was that? And that is where the precision and decision making comes, is to feel the sensation, understand it, and decide, is this one that I can move with and through? Or is this something that really, this is not the job for me right now in real time? So I love that kind of that backside of it, Dawn. It's kind of looking at that like, yeah, okay, this fear and resistance, is this real? Or is this something that really I'm not supposed to be doing right this moment?
So with your PS, one tip I love to throw out even too is the pause. Because
Yeah.
like I said, I think before we become like one of the first things is like bringing the awareness to it, and then like looking at it like, hey, what's getting in the way?
Exactly.
Before we get to that point, a lot of times when that resistance comes up, it could be good or bad.
Yes.
It's been my experience where I'll act on impulse just to get out of that feeling. But in kind of pausing, like you're kind of insinuating here, and thinking it through and like bringing a mindfulness to like, hey, what am I actually feeling right now? Like, is this good or bad? And then moving forward without regret, because it's like I thought it through. I didn't just act.
Exactly.
So I think there's a lot of like definitely strength in there as well.
I love your part about with no regret, right? Make the decision and go. You can look at the whole thing later and decide, okay, maybe I didn't take a long enough pause. Maybe I didn't listen to that, what was happening in my body. Maybe my brain went faster than my body. But I love that part. No regret, do it, and then move on. I love. There's too much regret, there's too much second guessing, regret. And especially right now in the time we're living in, where I feel like I call the world upside down and sideways right now, right? That things are the best that we can do to increase our resilience and move through resistance is to really become flexible and adaptable at every single day getting up. That means, again, checking in with your entire central nervous system so that we can start to get a little bit more skilled at really listening to our bodies, because it's changing like that.
Absolutely.
The world, I'm sorry, the world is changing.
Well, yeah, so, I mean, we are too, right? And the micro level,
Yes.
in comparison. Rochelle, this was great. Thank you so much. And for everybody watching again, this is Rochelle Rice. I'm Don Fisher. This is Mom's Movement and Mindset, how to break through resistance and transform your body and minds. Rochelle, I can't say enough. Thank you so much this was incredible. All the value you just left out there.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.